Hi there, my name is Joe Barton and I am the host of the Fix Blood Sugar webinar. And I just wanted to give you a quick introduction about what that is. So every week on Thursdays at 11 o'clock Central Time, myself and Leslie from our team and Dr. Scott Saunders, a medical doctor from California, we hop on together and we talk about type 2 and blood sugar issues. And we are basically supporting the customers of the Diabetes Solution Kit. And let me give you a little peek at what that looks like. This is it right here. This is the top selling product that we have been selling at Barton Publishing for over 10 years. And this webinar is designed to help support you on your journey of reversing type 2. And so you're watching this on YouTube right now, which is great. But I also wanted to invite you to join us live on Zoom every Thursday at 11 o'clock Central Time, AM. And if you want to do that, go to bartonwebinar.com and just register at the link, and then you'll get an email with the instructions on how to join us in Zoom. And then you can be part of the webinar. You can ask your questions, type them in, and we will get to them at the end of the broadcast or towards the second half of it. But now, anyways, yeah, I wanted to invite you to that. But get ready now for this episode of the webinar, and feel free to like the video, put a comment in there. If you have questions, we will get your questions answered on the following live webinar. And then also click that subscribe button, and you can be notified of every new video that we release, which is every week with the new webinar. And also go back and watch our archives. We've got over 70 webinars that have been recorded and are here on YouTube, and we'd love to have you subscribe. The more information you can learn, the more knowledge that you have about the right strategies for reversing type 2, the better your chances of success. So we're here for you. And now enjoy today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. Wow, good to have you here. Didn't think you'd be joining us live, but hey, you never know who's going to show up on these things.
Yeah, he just wants to decide if he wants to take us off his, if he wants to censor us or not.
Right. Mark, please keep us on. We're doing lots of good for people here. So, all right. So I think we're live everywhere, right, Leslie?
We're good to go.
All right. So welcome to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. How are you? Good morning. Give us a little, say hello in the chat. And hey, I'm your host, Joe Barton with Barton Publishing and Barton Nutrition. And this is our weekly Fixed Blood Sugar webinar, a value-added service that we give to our customers, those that have purchased the Diabetes Solution Kit. If you hear that jingling, that is my dog, Gus, in the background. And he really likes it when I get on webinars, so he can come and tell me he needs to go outside. Gus, do you want to be in the webinar? Come here, Gus. Come here. No, he probably won't, but hey, good to see you. Say hello in the chat. And so just a reminder, if you're watching this recorded on YouTube, you can register to watch these live with us as we're live right now. Go to bartonwebinar.com and click on the registration link there, enter your email address, and you'll be notified the day before and the hour before we start this. And so then you can join us live, and then we get to get your questions answered, which is the biggest value, I think, for this. So we've had lots of great testimonials. Last week we had at least 20 testimonials of you guys sharing your success stories, whether it's been even a week or two or months or years. And so great to read those. I shared those with the whole team, and everyone was really excited to see that the work that we're doing is actually helping you guys. And so, and we couldn't do it without you, Dr. Saunders. So thank you for being here with us today. Again, as always, I think we're on somewhere around 75 of these webinars in a row. And so we cover all sorts of topics, but we try to stick to type 2 diabetes as our main focus, and how you can really reverse that with diet and nutrition and other things. And so Dr. Saunders shares strategies. And again, if you have questions, go ahead and type them in the Q&A section on Zoom, or you can put them in the chat as well. Leslie is at the command here and she's good at deciphering and sometimes needs to go to Google Translate to figure out what some words might mean. But, you know, hey, we make it work. Dr. Saunders, today we're going to cover type 2 basics. Every other week we do the basics, and I think we've found that every time we go back to the basics, we are reminded of the good things, and we're also taught some new things. And so some good stuff for blood sugar levels and all that. So could you just start us off, Dr. Saunders, talk about type 2 and why is it such a huge problem in America and in the world? Because we talk about COVID being a pandemic. I'm telling you, diabetes is the real pandemic. Would you agree?
Oh, by far. If you look at the death rate from diabetes versus the death rate from COVID-19, there's no comparison. Diabetes is way far above. If you look at the number of people affected by diabetes compared to the number of people affected by COVID-19, there's no comparison. Diabetes is head and shoulders 10 times way above anything COVID-19. So if our politicians really wanted to help the population, they would start advertising about the diabetes epidemic and telling people how to prevent the diabetes. So instead of wearing masks, we would wear mouth plugs so we couldn't eat anything. And they would shut down all the McDonald's restaurants, and they would shut off all the soda fountains and all the Coca-Cola, Sprite, and all sodas and drinks with sugar in them would be gone, so that we could really protect the people. Now, I don't believe in protectionism. I think people should choose what they want. But I'm just saying, you know, wearing a mask is useless, and cutting out all soda is great for you. So I mean, just the difference there. Yeah. So what I'd like to do today is sort of in a pivotal way to kind of change your thinking, the way you look at things. Now, we Barton Publishing and myself included, we've tried to make things simple. And by simplifying things, sometimes people don't fit into the simplified model that we've created. So we've created a really good model that works for most people, but it's not going to work for everyone. So if I can give you a bigger picture, and we can expand this out, because you've been here long enough that you've heard me talk about sugar creating insulin resistance and all of that, but that's not the whole picture. There's actually a bigger picture involved. And so one of the things that I want to talk about is just calories in general. So let me start with a story of one patient who came in with his wife. They were both very overweight. She had pre-diabetes and he was fully diabetic. And we discussed the risks of all of that. And he said, well, you know, we want to fix this thing. So I put them on the phase 1 of the Barton diabetes solution kit. And while they were doing it, she was losing weight. She got better. She got a lot of improvement. Her numbers became normal. But over the next several months, he was getting worse. And I'm like, okay, what are you guys doing differently? And he said, nothing. We're eating exactly the same thing. We cook the same, you know, we go to the same restaurant and order the same stuff. There's really no difference. I'm doing everything right. And he's checking his ketones. He's actually making ketones, not high levels, but he's making some. But he was getting worse. His numbers were getting worse. His insulin was going up. It was actually worse. So the point that I want to make is that not everybody's the same. It turned out he was really sensitive to protein. So he's eating, you know, a high protein diet, low carb and high protein. And the protein is causing his insulin to go up. And then all the fat, he's eating all this extra fat, and fat makes you resistant to insulin. So fat does not cause the release of insulin, but it causes insulin resistance. So some people are so sensitive to that that if they do the hour program, that they're not getting better, and they're going to scratch their heads, and they're going to go, wait a minute, this is what, there's so many testimonials. Look at all these thousands of people who've been helped by this. Why isn't it working for me? You have to look at the bigger picture and say, you know, some people are sensitive to proteins. And so a high protein diet with fat in it is going to make them more resistant to insulin. So, you know, their blood sugars may not go up, but their insulin resistance goes up and they put on weight more easily. So it may not be just as simple as, you know, one size fits all. One size does not fit all. And I think that's really important as part of our disclaimer that we say every week. Okay, look, you guys, I don't know everything, and I can't give you specific information. I can give you general information that may apply to you and may not. So let's look at other options, other things that people do. So a few weeks ago, we talked about the importance of getting fiber in your diet. And when I talked about that and talked about diabetes, I mentioned there was a Dr. McDougall in California who had done a lot of research on diabetes and found people could live on fruit and their insulin resistance would go down. And I was like, what? And everybody's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. These people are living on sugar. You know, they're eating fruit after fruit after fruit. But what he did was zero fat. You couldn't even have an avocado on his diet. This was like none. Like you couldn't put any olive oil on your dressing on your salad or anything. You know, you could just put vinegar, salt, and pepper. That's it. There's no oils allowed at all in any form. So no nuts, no seeds, you know, like really no oils. And so when you don't have any oils, when you don't have any fats, then you don't get insulin resistance very easily. And so the insulin flows into your cells better and becomes more efficient. So, so the combination of fat with sugar is the worst combination there is for diabetes. So if you look at things like fried foods, most fried foods, they have breading on them of some kind, or like donuts, or most things that are fried have you know, a carbohydrate that's fried, like French fries or onion rings or anything like that. And that combination of fat with the sugar is where you get a lot more insulin resistance, because number one, the sugar raises your insulin. Fat doesn't raise your insulin, but the sugar does. And then the fat makes you more resistant. So that combination of factors is one thing that'll make the blood sugar go up. So my point is, if you remove all the fat out of your diet, you could still eat like fruit. And if you enjoy sweet, you can have sweet, not refined sugars. No, that doesn't work because you need the fiber. So juice wouldn't be a good idea either because juice takes all the fiber out. So, but if you're eating a whole fruit, like a lot of people have said, oh, you know, I could never have a mango again because I love mangoes, but there's like 40 grams of sugar in a single mango, and I can't eat that much. Well, the other way to do it is to take out all the fats so that you have no fats, so you're not insulin, so your insulin resistance goes down better, and then you can use those carbohydrates. So in the McDougall diet, he put people on high sugar diets. I mean, they're getting carbs. That's all they're eating is carbs. But it has to be with fiber, so that it has to be whole grains. It has to be whole fruit, whole food. So it's a whole food vegan diet is what it is, with limited like nuts and seeds and like limited fats. Like you wouldn't be able to have avocados, for example. So a whole food vegan diet, low fat, very, very low fat. That works. And you could totally reverse your diabetes by doing that. So we chose, when we created this program, we chose to do the easier way to do it. It's a lot easier to cut out, eat 20 grams of carbs a day, and not have your sugar go up, and allow your cells to use up all the extra sugar that you've had, and train your body to burn fat. That's the way we chose to do it, because more people, it fits into more lifestyles than a whole food vegan diet, no fat diet. But the other advantage of the no fat diet is you can actually reverse heart disease with it too. And multiple studies have shown that. Joel Fuhrman did studies on that. Dean Ornish did studies on that. And they both showed that people who already had cholesterol deposits in their arteries could reverse all those cholesterol deposits by eating a high carbohydrate, low fat diet. So when they did studies, when they compared them, there was actually a study done where they took half of the people in the study did a Dean Ornish diet, where they had no fat, pure carbohydrates, whole food vegan diet. And the other half, which is low protein, by the way, and that's an important part of why that's important. And the other half did a Dr. Atkins diet, which was the big ketogenic diet at the time. And they compared them, and they followed them along. They both lost weight. They both lost insulin resistance. They both improved. But the problem in both cases was it was really hard to get people to stay with it. They wouldn't stick to it. So I'm going to offer another option that, if you're having a hard time with phase 1 of our program, which is kind of like an Atkins diet, or if you're trying a Dean Ornish or McDougall diet or Joel Fuhrman diet, and you're having a hard time sticking to that, I'm going to give you another option. And I've talked about this in the past. It's fasting. So in one way or another, you have to cut out the carbohydrates or the fats, some form of calories. You have to cut them out completely in order to reset your system. Well, the other way of doing that is cutting out all calories altogether. No carbohydrates, no fats, no protein. And so if you cut out all calories, then what you get is a resetting of the whole system. You get the same thing. So you can do that on an intermittent basis. I don't know, I have people doing like 3 days a month. I have other people do 10 days every 3 months, every quarter-ish, or 3 to 4 months. I had one guy who would do 2 weeks every year, just do a 2-week fast every year. I've had people do 30-day fasts. So the fasting could be in various ways. You want to cut out the calories. I've had bone broth work pretty well, and that has some fats and some or some proteins and very little carbohydrate. That's okay. I've had people do juice cleanses, but the juice has too much sugar in it and tends to make the sugar go up. So if you're going to do juice, it's better to do like celery juice, green juice, and I've had people ask me, can I put an apple in there? And I'm like, yeah, you can put an apple in there, So if you drink like 16 ounces of juice twice a day, or 16 ounces of broth twice a day, or I've had people do just water, just 30 days of water and nothing else, and that works really well too. I had somebody, I've told you the story about the guy with severe heart disease. He couldn't get 10 feet without getting chest pain. He couldn't walk 10 feet. But after 30 days of a water fast, he was playing a full game of tennis with no chest pain. And he's still over a year later, he doesn't have any heart issues at all. And after doing a 30-day water fast over a year ago. So there are ways to reset the system that you don't have to like do the extreme diets. Well, how extreme is fasting, right? Extreme diets of like, but don't tell Joe I told you this. Like our program, the Barton diabetes reversal program, or like a Dean Ornish or a McDougall diet. Those are fine, and if you tolerate them, you like them, and they're fine. And I've had people that I've put on a ketogenic diet, and they come back and they say it was horrible. I don't like it at all. It doesn't make me feel good. Blah blah blah. And so I go the opposite way and tell them, okay, eat all the fruits and all the vegetables you want, whole grains, but just cut out all the fat. And they come back and they say, wow, I feel a lot better. I have more energy, and that's working. So, so that's the pivotal thing, that yes, we try to simplify things and make it look like, okay, this is easy, we can do this, but it's not necessarily that simple. So applying this information to yourself and saying, what's going to work best for me? Can I just do 3 days a month and eat anything I want? Oh, there he is.
Here's Gus. Gus wanted to say hello. Hi, Gus. Say hello, everyone.
Gus.
Hello, my name is Gus. I like to walk around and go outside and bark at squirrels.
The funny thing is that I have the same dog as Joe.
Oh boy.
I should go get mine, but mine's Charlie.
Gus, you want to go outside? Sorry. This is great.
Charlie and Gus are twins.
They are. Mine's a little lighter, but
Yeah. You're not identical twins. Well, this is really good information, Dr. Saunders. And yeah, I think we'll keep going here. We had a couple people that asked about the COVID vaccine, which is a little off topic, but we did mention COVID at the beginning. So what is your recommendation on the vaccine?
Okay, I have done a lot of research on the vaccine, and what I came up with is nothing. Why? Because they won't publish anything. They don't have any published studies on animals, so we don't even know if they did any animal studies. The previous vaccines did animal studies, and all the animals died. And they're like, what the heck? Scratching their heads. What's going on? Well, remember, people don't die from coronavirus. Coronavirus is just a cold. It's just a regular cold flu, whatever. You don't die from that. When people have an overreactive immune system to this virus, their immune system kills them, their own immune system. It's not the virus. The virus is long gone before people die. The virus is gone within a week. People die 2 weeks later. So it's their immune reaction that causes death. So what happened with the vaccine for animals is they gave them the vaccine and it worked. They got antibodies and everything. It looked good until later on they were exposed to the coronavirus and they died because they had an excessive immune response because they'd had the vaccine. So that was the previous animal studies with the previous vaccines, and those were all scrapped. And they're telling us now that these vaccines are better, but we don't have any research. We don't have any studies. We don't know. So what don't we know? We don't know if it works. We don't know if people are going to die later when they're exposed to the virus. We don't know how long they're going to have immunity. We don't know if they can spread it to other people or not. So, so they're saying, yeah, get the vaccine, but keep your mask on because we don't know if it works.
Wow.
Like, okay, fine. So here's the deal with the vaccine. If you want to be part of a medical experiment, do it. If you don't want to be part of a medical experiment, don't do it. Just understand that these are experimental vaccines and they're experimenting on you.
Wow. Drop the mic. That was enough for me to remain convinced that, yeah, no thanks. I don't think I want to be a part of that. Well, and I don't think the media is being very honest about it either, because I heard that Hank Aaron and Larry King just, passed away, I think last week. And I believe it was the week before or something like that, they got vaccinated and they both, I think were fine. And then all of a sudden, a week later, they're dead. It's like, I mean, they were in their 80s, so it's not like they were spring chickens necessarily. But
yeah, I think Larry King must have been in his 90s. What,
yeah, I think he was 87 or something like that.
He's really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that, I can make a claim that that's what killed him, but it's like things that make you think twice. And why would you do that if, like you said, there's no research to support that it's even helping? It's an experiment. And and like what you've taught, like, getting your immune system functioning properly and strong, and with things like vitamin D and, sleep and fasting and all sorts of things like that, that don't require an injection in your arm. So, but we don't hear about that from the mainstream media. So there's just a lot of other great things you can do. So I want to ask you about that overactive immune system. People are probably wondering, like, can I take too much vitamin D or get too much? Like, how, how can we avoid that, or how does that happen if we're, taking too many supplements,
Okay.
something like that?
Excellent. Okay. So vitamin D, what it does is it's a macrophage activating factor. And what that does is your cellular immunity, before you ever make antibodies, your cellular immunity will take the infected cells out. It goes, because the macrophages, the cells go, hey, that's infected, that's a sick cell, and takes it out, kills it, and digests it, and eats it, and puts it back into the system. So and that's what it does with the infected cell. And so the vitamin D works before you ever get antibodies. So that's why it's so important to have the vitamin D on board already, and not wait until you get sick. Once you get sick, well, you need antibodies, because now you've got viruses all over your body. And when they're measuring your blood with viruses, they're measuring thousands of copies of a genome per cubic centimeter, per little bit of blood. That's how much of this virus is in your body. So, but once that happens, you need antibodies. But before that, so vitamin D works before that, which is why it's so important for preventing people from going to the ICU, because the vitamin D is taking out the bad cells, so you don't get that excessive immune response, because you're not going to have this really high spike of viruses in your blood. So vitamin D is really good. And then what the vitamin C does is it is an anti-inflammatory to prevent the excessive immune response. In fact, in China, when they did research on intravenous vitamin C, they showed they could stop the reaction. But in the United States, they won't use it. I have this thought that a friend of mine had a couple of people he knows die from COVID-19. And I asked, did they give him hydroxychloroquine? No. Did they give him vitamin C? No. Did they give him ivermectin? No. So the three things that have been shown in, everywhere in the world, all the studies have been shown that this is what works. They didn't give him any of those, and they just waited and watched him die. And so I'm wondering why in the United States are we letting everybody die? Whereas if you were in India, they would just give you hydroxychloroquine and you get better. That's what happens. In Switzerland, they did a great study where they have a national health service, and they stopped using hydroxychloroquine. The death rate went up. 12 days later, the death rate went up by 5 times.
Wow.
Then they go, oh my gosh, we better use hydroxychloroquine. 12 days later, the death rate went down by 5 times. It was like a great study. But in the United States, they won't use it. In fact, when I prescribe it, there's a lot of pharmacies will say, oh no, they'll pull my license if I give that to the patient.
Okay, audience participation time now. So I would love for you guys to put in the chat and tell us, answer this question. 1, have you or your significant other had COVID? 2, how severe were the symptoms? Like, how bad was it? Were you hospitalized? Like, were you sick for a month or a couple days? And number 3, what did you do? What were you doing as far as your vitamin D and other immune support things? I'd love to hear your feedback on it. We've got a lot of people attending here live, and so my story is I never tested positive for it, but I'm pretty positive that I had it back in August because we were exposed. We did a kids camp, and there was people at that camp for that week that were positive, and then I came down with some symptoms right after it. I was super exhausted for 2 days, and then I had a cough for, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks, something like that. I didn't lose my taste or smell, maybe for a day or 2, but and my wife lost her smell for a good month. So, but she didn't really get sick. Our boys, so we've got 4 boys, and 2 of them have had confirmed positives, but they had like 0 symptoms, maybe like a little bit of a sore throat for a couple days. That was about it. So, Leslie, your family, have you guys?
Nothing confirmed. There've been, a few times where we haven't felt wonderful, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't know.
Yeah.
That's been normal for us in years past to have those same types of feelings, just maybe for a day or two. So, nothing diagnosed.
Dr. Saunders, how about you and your family?
Yeah, none of us have had, we've had symptoms, and there's been a few of our older children who are not living at home who had symptoms, but then when they went and got tested, they all tested negative. So
Yeah.
So no.
When I went in for my thumb x-ray last week, I asked if I could get an antibody test, and they said they weren't making those available yet to the public. I guess there weren't enough of them to go around or whatever. So, but I'm curious because I'm pretty sure I've had it. So I just want to see. In South Dakota, we had a spike. I don't know. I mean, South Dakota made national news. It's like, oh no, South Dakota is the worst place in the world. It's a hot zone or whatever. And the super spreaders and it peaked in November, and now it's way back down. It's like, we're back to like nothing. So, but we didn't really change anything. The governor is very like libertarian in the sense of like, be smart, do what you think is right for yourself. And
he's great. I like your governor.
I love her, Governor Kristi Noem. She would make a great president, I think, as well. But I don't know if she'd get voted in. There's still, there's some people that don't like her style. So, all right. So Oscar positive for COVID-19 3 weeks ago. Let's see. My nephew just came down with COVID, head and sinus cold, minor fever, still has it. Let's see. Blood type, O positive, and they say it's unlikely I'll catch it. Is blood type a factor in catching coronavirus?
Probably not, because this one doesn't. This particular coronavirus attaches to ACE2 receptors, so it's different than the other ones that can attach to the HLA, which is maybe blood type.
Okay. All right. So I'm not seeing anyone that's had any serious issues themselves. So, anyways, good stuff. Keep writing in. We'll read those on our own as well. Just kind of looking, for your research. Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by CinnaChroma, our best-selling advanced blood sugar support formula. Now, thousands of people around the world are taking CinnaChroma every day as part of their program to fix their blood sugar using natural ingredients that simply work. Now, Dr. Saunders formulated CinnaChroma to meet key nutritional deficiencies that most people have unknowingly suffered from for far too long. With CinnaChroma, you get a blend of 6 key ingredients. The perfect combination of chromium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which it's important to take those 2 together, selenium, vanadium, and our 10-to-1 cinnamon bark extract. Now, if you're not already using CinnaChroma, I highly recommend that you give it a try and see how it helps your energy, your weight, and your blood sugar numbers. You can get CinnaChroma at bartonnutrition.com or on Amazon. If you get it at bartonnutrition.com, you can enter the coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off at bartonnutrition.com. But I realize some people like to go to Amazon as well. So anyways, CinnaChroma, highly recommend. Now let's get you back to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. So let's get back to type 2 diabetes. Let's talk about it. Well, we can get some questions coming in here too, maybe, but any last thoughts before we get to questions, Dr. Saunders?
Yeah. Okay. So the point I was making about you can choose different ways of doing it is that when you restrict calories, then your energy systems in your body have to use what's available in the body, and so calorie restriction works. And the best calorie restriction is, of course, fasting. So any way you want to restrict it, you need a guideline. You need some sort of some way of restricting calories. So cut out the fat, cut out the carbs, or cut out food altogether. Any way works.
So it kind of sounds like you mentioned, eating fruit was fine as long as you weren't also having much fat. And like keto is like eating a lot of fat, but not having much for carbs, or I mean,
exactly.
And then, so I'd imagine, and Atkins was like super high protein and low carbs and fat. And wasn't that one maybe proven later to be less healthy?
Yeah, it's not healthy. People don't live long when they do that. And severe calorie restriction, you don't live long. Intermittent fasting is really, if you look at longevity and all the aging research, to prevent aging, to prevent a breakdown of your body, intermittent fasting is the best way to go. So whether that's you have someone do like a 5-hour a day window of eating where you can eat between, I don't know, it is 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. And that's all, then that's one way of doing intermittent fasting. The other way is just to fast for 3.
Cut out there, fast for what, 3 days?
But yeah, if you did 3 days once a month, that would work just as well. That would,
okay.
You have to find what works for you.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. All right, Leslie, let's hand things over to you if you want to get through some questions that have come in, and feel free if you're watching to ask your questions about anything.
All right, here we go. This is in reference to blood types again. Do blood types have anything to do with type 2 or any other autoimmune conditions?
Yes and no. Yes, in a way, only because your blood type may indicate how your genes work. So there's been actually quite a bit of research on how people process carbohydrates. If you give one group of people, like type O people, a high carbohydrate diet, then they'll blow up and get fat. And other type of people, they don't. They do really well on it. And that's the genetic types of things. And that may come from your ancestral lines, which may have something to do with the type A or type ABO blood type. So there's a whole book, Eat for Your Blood Type. And I have the book. I have it in my office, and I've read it. And when people look at it, they go, "Oh my gosh, that's great! That's exactly perfect for me." And they start taking pictures of my book, and just get your own book. But so there may be something to that in the way you process carbohydrates based on your genetic propensity to process them.
Okay, that's good.
Did I? There was another part of that question, right? Did I answer the whole thing?
Just if the blood type had anything to do with type 2 or other autoimmune conditions.
Oh, yes, and that too. Yes, but blood type, not specifically because of your blood type, but because that's what your genes are. And some people are genetically more predisposed to autoimmune type problems.
I had a question about race, because Black and Hispanic communities typically have higher levels or rates of diabetes, and why is that?
It may. There's a couple of issues. One might be a genetic issue. If you look at people like Native Americans, for example, there's one group called the Pima Indians, or Pima tribe in Arizona, and they have cousins that are genetically related right across the border in Mexico. And the Tarahumara Indians, they grow their own food essentially, and they have like almost a zero rate of diabetes, whereas the ones in the tribe in Arizona has 80% of the people in the tribe will get diabetes. So you have these people who are genetically related. Well, what's the difference between them? Well, the ones in Mexico, they have to grow their own food. With the ones in the United States, they eat like American food. And so, what you eat has a bigger factor, but clearly not everybody, not every group of people has an 80% chance of getting diabetes from eating a high carbohydrate, high fat diet. Yes, there's of course genetic links. If two people eating the exact same thing, living together, eating the exact same thing, one of them's gaining weight, one of them's losing weight, and they're like, what the heck? Why? Well, there's hormones involved, there's stress involved, there's genetics of all kinds and how your metabolism works. Yeah, that's all related to genes, but all of that is modifiable. And that's one of the reasons why I brought this up today, to give an expansive, a bigger view, and not to try to simplify it, but to expand it out, so that you can say, you know what, I'm not a fat burning person very well. I need carbs to get energy or something, and so doing a very low fat diet might be better for me. Being able to choose that based on your genetics would be a good idea.
Right.
Okay, Patrick mentioned that he sent a really positive message to a friend about our 610 reset. He's finding a lot of good things, better sleep, fewer bathroom wake ups, and his overall health is improving. He's wondering, is that common, since he says, does getting into anabolic metabolism overnight turn off urine production, or what is happening? Why is he no longer waking up in the middle of the night?
That's really interesting, because what happens is the sleep cycles change. The way you sleep changes, because during the night when we're asleep, we're actually waking up multiple times. If you've ever done a sleep study or you have an Aura ring or something, you're like, what the heck? I wake up 6 to 8 times every night. But we don't notice it, and most of us just go right back to sleep and don't even remember that we woke up. So if you look at you go into deep sleep, and then you wake up for 2 or 3 minutes, and then you're back into deep sleep, and then you wake up again, then you're back. That kind of thing is the way sleep happens. Well, when you change to the 610 reset and you're going to bed at 10 o'clock, you get the deep sleep between the 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Those 4 hours, that's your deep sleep time. And so you're getting more restful sleep. So you're not waking up all the way. You're just waking up and then going right back into sleep again. So your sleep pattern is better. And that's why it's not the bathroom thing. It's people wake up and they get awake and they go, okay, I guess I'll go to the bathroom. And it's not because the bladder's full. It's just because they're awake and they go, gee, I must have to go to the bathroom. And the way you would know that, and I've had to do this with people, is pee into a measuring cup and see how much. If you're getting less than a cup, there's no way your bladder's full. Your bladder should be able to take about 2 cups of urine. So anyway, that's just something to think about.
Okay. Marilyn is wondering, hello, Joe and Dr. Saunders, what is your opinion of using insulin for type 2?
Since type 2 is insulin resistance, the more insulin you have, the more you can become resistant. So as you add insulin in, there's 2 things that happen in type 2. One is you start making antibodies against insulin because you're injecting it in. The same way when you're injected with a vaccine, you make antibodies against the protein in the vaccine. The insulin that you're injecting is a protein, and so antibodies can be made against that. So you become more insulin resistant for 2 reasons. One is you start making antibodies. The other is you have higher levels of insulin, and so the cells will block more insulin. So you have 2 problem areas when using insulin for type 2. If you don't have if you don't have an insulin deficiency from the pancreas, it's not wise to use excessive insulin to put more in. So the problems, insulin is not a problem. Excessive insulin is a problem. And so adding more makes it worse. Good. That's what I've been wanting to say.
Okay, and then how about metformin? Marilyn's wondering about that as well. Is it necessary, and how common is
Okay.
metformin?
Metformin is used like it's given out like candy, like everybody, as soon as they have a little insulin, says, here, take some metformin. So it's given everywhere. It's kind of useful, at least in the beginning. It's kind of like, we have the CinnaChroma to replace people on metformin. But metformin, the way it does is it blocks your mitochondria from using sugar and forces them to use fat. And remember, what you want to do is train your body to start using fat for energy. So metformin has a good effect in that sense. And as long as people tolerate it, but because it's toxic to the mitochondria, some people are really sensitive and they'll get liver disease, and their muscles will cramp up, and they'll get muscle aches because they can't use the energy that's in their muscles. So if they can't use fat and now they're taking metformin and they can't use sugar and they don't have any source of energy, then they're going to have problems. So metformin can cause problems with that, liver damage and muscle damage.
Okay. I got a message here from, I'm not sure actually, it came through email. This person is listening to the webinar and they have a different case. They have type 2 diabetes and have been taking Lantus, Humalog, and a couple of drugs for heartbeat and cholesterol. I'm losing weight, and the doctor said it's the sugar that's high. I had blood work done, and I'm on a low carb diet, taking some vitamins, Centrum Silver, D and C. What can be done with my case? It was nice listening to you. Hope to hear from you soon.
Okay. So I can't give specific advice for your case, but if I give you some general principles, perhaps that would help you. If you're using two different kinds of insulin, there's some more information that you need. Number one, is your pancreas working at all? Because sometimes the pancreas isn't making insulin at all, or you may not be making glucagon, which is how your liver takes the glycogen out and makes it into sugar. So you need some tests to know if you have pancreas function, first of all, and then second of all, like we just talked about antibodies, or I just talked about antibodies against insulin. When you're injecting insulin, you can get antibodies, and then the insulin doesn't work as well, and then people are like, what the heck, I'm injecting insulin and it's not working. So and the other part, and then the third principle is that for some people, fat will make them more resistant to insulin. So there might be more than one reason why this system is not working for you, and you might need to find another system, another way of dealing with this. So looking at your fat and doing some tests for your pancreas, some tests for insulin resistance, insulin sensitivity, and then antibodies against insulin. Those are things that I would do to help you find out why, so that you can change that.
Okay. Question from Tina. We have a lot of questions today. This is great. So we'll try to go through them quickly. I took CinnaChroma and TurmericBP for 3 months. My A1C went down, and now I'm in phase 2. Should I still continue to take CinnaChroma and turmeric?
I would, and here's why I would, because the CinnaChroma it's not just cinema. It's not like metformin where you can just go, yeah, my hemoglobin A1C is down, get rid of the metformin. You can do that, but with CinnaChroma, you have the benefits of the vitamin D, which you need a continuous supply of, the chromium, which you need a continuous supply of, the vanadium, which you need a continuous supply of, and the selenium. So these are nutrients that allow you to use sugar more efficiently, and there's things you need anyway, and you're not going to get them from food. So even if you're eating good food, so I would continue the CinnaChroma anyway. So normally what we do is we have people take it twice a day at first, and then they just go down to once a day, the CinnaChroma.
All right. David says, why is my blood sugar low and my A1C high?
Oh, okay. That's a great question because I run into this periodically. What the heck? My blood sugar is dropping too low. Okay, so there's a lot of factors involved in this, and one is it's a excessive output of insulin. So you eat something, and your blood sugar goes way up, and it spikes high, and then your pancreas goes, "Oh my gosh, there's a lot of sugar there," and puts out a whole bunch of insulin. And there's actually two phases of insulin, but some people, they're like squeezed into one phase instead of the initial output and then a longer output. The way the pancreas normally functions, some people don't function normally. They just put out all the insulin at once, and then they crash and their blood sugar's low and they're going, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting headaches, I'm getting hypoglycemia, this is horrible." And then I check the hemoglobin A1C and it's high. What the heck? And that's because of this wide amount of sugar. So you're like, it goes up to 300 and then it goes down to 50 or 60, and then it goes up to 300 and then it goes down to 60. So then your average, because remember, the hemoglobin A1C is an average, so it averages out to be high, like in the 200s. You're like, what the heck? I'm getting hypoglycemic. How the heck could I be 200? Average 200. That's how it's 300 to 60. Then so that kind of thing. So the way to avoid that is avoid the simple sugars that are rapidly absorbed, the high glycemic index sugars, like even like watermelon is high glycemic index. Then eat things with a lot of fiber in them, fruits and vegetables, so that with a lot of fiber, then you have gradual absorption of sugar, and then you won't have that excessive output of insulin.
Okay, Teresa's wondering, where can I find an A1C tester?
Oh, I don't know. They have them all over Europe. That's kind of a standard. You can just walk into a pharmacy and get them there. But I have not seen them. The first thing I would do is look on Amazon. I don't have one, and I did have someone who had one, but he got it from England when he was in England. So I don't know.
Okay. One more time. Michelle's wondering if you could give us the levels of vitamin D and C that you would recommend for prevention of COVID.
Okay, so vitamin D should be around 5 to 10,000 units a day. And vitamin C, if you took 500 or 1,000 milligrams a day, that would be plenty. But if you're getting sick, vitamin D, you should take 50,000 units once a day for 3 days in a row. And then take vitamin C, like 1,000 milligrams every hour until you feel better. And that may be a week or two. I have had people get diarrhea from that much vitamin C. Just cut back on it, make it every 2 hours or every 3 hours till you stop getting the diarrhea. It's called bowel tolerance.
Okay. I heard of people doing vitamin C cleanses. They take a bunch of vitamin C just to empty out. So, okay. Yeah. This is a little bit of a longer question, and I'm not going to try to pronounce all of these. So if Dr. Saunders is able to go to the Q&A, he might be able to see these. But Marilyn, this is a good question. Marilyn has an immediate family member who's taking a lot of different medications. She's really concerned about the number of them. And she's just wondering what Dr. Saunders' general opinion is about taking so many. So there's 6 of them listed.
Okay. I have the list in front of me. Okay. I have the list in front of me. Okay. Chlorthalidone, Ramipril, aripiprazole, sertraline, glyburide, metformin. Okay. So this is kind of an interesting list. It's kind of a standard list. And of something that you might expect to see with somebody who has diabetes, because type 2 diabetes is not a single issue. It's a multitude of issues. It goes along with having high blood pressure and central obesity, and the cholesterol is usually high. So you expect to see this group of things commonly with it. And then when your energy is low, you're depressed, so they give you sertraline, which is Zoloft, which is a antidepressant. So to lower the blood pressure, and then for depression, and then 2 of them for diabetes. So if you're going to do a program like the Diabetes Solution Kit, the first one to take off here would be glyburide, because glyburide can cause you to get too low. It can cause hypoglycemia. The metformin won't cause hypoglycemia. So you can stay with the metformin as long as you need it until your hemoglobin A1C is normal, and then you can get rid of the metformin. So those are kind of common things. And then the blood pressure medications, another thing you have to be careful of, because when you're doing something like calorie restriction, whether you're restricting all the carbs or all the fats, or you're fasting, the blood pressure will tend to drop down. And if you're taking blood pressure medications, they tend to go too low, and then you get hypotension. And hypotension can cause dizziness and feeling weak and tired, just like hypoglycemia, and they're kind of hard to tell apart. So the blood pressure medications might be decreased or avoided during the time that you're doing something like some form of calorie restriction. And then the medication for depression and anxiety, and that's really only about how you feel. So by themselves, this is not like an unusual either number, amount, or type of medications that someone with type 2 might see. But with good treatment, when you remove the insulin resistance, you shouldn't need any of them.
All right. We're about out of time, but I want to ask this question because it hasn't come up. How does sleep apnea affect type 2 diabetes?
Oh, great question. We should actually do a whole
Just
sleep
thinking.
thing. Yeah, what a great idea. Okay. Sleep apnea is very stressful. It's very stressful on the body. And you may not even realize how stressful it is, but it causes release of stress hormones, and your cortisol levels are going up, and you're not getting good rest. And so if you're not getting deep sleep, you're never in anabolic mode. So you're never repairing your body. You're just breaking down all the time, and you never get it repaired. So it's like you're driving your body really hard. Well, what does stress do? Well, that's the other part that complicates the factors that I didn't talk about earlier when I talked about the fat, the carbohydrates, the fasting, and that stuff. That's just the diet stuff. There are so many more factors that cause insulin resistance, one of which is stress, especially the stress hormone cortisol. So that stress hormone cortisol is excessive during the time that you're not sleeping. So sleep apnea, it is important to get a good night's sleep. That is important. And that's the 6-10 reset is so good. So sleep apnea, the best way to deal with that, of all the studies that have been done, the best way to deal with that is weight loss. Even if you're close to normal weight, weight loss still makes a difference.
Okay. There are at least two more questions about fasting. What do you eat when you fast, or what do you drink? And we've talked about this a few times. You can even listen in our webinar from last week, but talk again about what do you do if you're taking medications?
Okay, that's where you have to be careful and maybe work with your doctor depending on what medications you're on. Remember, I just said that blood pressure medications, people that are fasting may tend to get low blood pressure, and if they stand up, they could pass out. So blood pressure medications, you might want to decrease or stop them during the time that you're fasting, or fasting is what the question was. And then clearly medications for diabetes are going to be an issue because you can get hypoglycemia if you're taking drugs to lower your blood pressure or blood sugar, and you're not eating any sugar. So you can get hypoglycemia pretty easily. So those two medications probably should be avoided. Other medications, people who are on medications for epilepsy or depression or other things, you can continue those. That shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
Cholesterol medications can be diminished.
Yeah. Well, it is noon Central Time, and I know you've got patients to go see. So, Dr. Saunders, thank you very much again, and we'll let you get going with your day here. But we'll be back next week as well, and I think we're going to talk about sleep as well as type 2. And so, also, if you asked a question and didn't get answered, I recommend you go to our Facebook page, the 610 Reset page. You can search 610 Reset on Facebook and find us, and just click join group, and one of us will approve you for that. And then ask your question in there. So one of us will try to help with that. And if we don't know the answer, we'll message Dr. Saunders and get an answer for you. Otherwise, you can ask your question again on the next call next Thursday at 11 a.m. Central Time. So.
Hello, today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Nervala. Now, Nervala is for people that have diabetic neuropathy, nerve pain, peripheral neuropathy, numbness, tingling, or anything like that related to nerve damage. Now, I named it Nervala because it's like Nirvana for your nerves. And the number one ingredient in this is ALA, alpha-lipoic acid. The other ingredient is benfotiamine in this. So Dr. Saunders formulated this to help people to cool down their overheated nerves. And that's really what's going on. Inside your body, there's a lot of inflammation and overheating, and your nerves are just like stressed out to the max. And that's what happens when you've got too much sugar, too much blood sugar, erratic blood sugar. But Nervala helps with all of that. And people experience a lot of relief from Nervala, and we've heard a lot of thousands of people have bought this product, and we've gotten tons of feedback and positive testimonials from people that this works. You can get this today at bartonnutrition.com, and if you use the coupon code webinar25, you'll save an additional 25% off your purchase of Nervala. So I mentioned cooling down your nerves. That's right. What's going on in your nerves is there's just too much energy. And that's what happens when we have too much sugar in our body and we have insulin resistance and different things going on like that with our metabolism. So Nervala and the alpha-lipoic acid, it cools off your overheated nerve cells and all of that energy. And then the benfotiamine that's in there, it helps to run things more efficiently. And your nerves are so important in your body. And if you experience numbness, tingling, intense pain in your nerves and things like that, there's probably something wrong with the function. And I want you to give this a try. It comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You can try it for a month. You can try it for 3 months. You can try it for 6 months. You can try it for 11 and a half months, and then send back the empty bottles if you're not completely satisfied, and we'll give you a full refund of your purchase price. That's how confident we are that this is going to help you. So give it a try. Nervala, bartonnutrition.com. Use the coupon code webinar25. All right, let's get back to the webinar.
Great information. Thank you, Dr. Saunders. And thanks everybody for joining us. And yeah, we'll keep up the good work. You guys are encouragement to us and our team. We really like connecting with you guys. Love hearing from you. Thanks for sharing what's working for you and your questions. And it's helping us get better at what we do. And just stay healthy. Keep doing what you know to do. And that is eating healthy, fasting, and getting good sleep. For more information, go to bartonwebinar.com, and you can go to our YouTube channel there. And on that YouTube channel, you'll see all 75 previous webinars that we've recorded, where we cover all sorts of topics and great information. So, and you can like and subscribe and that on our channel there as well. And thank you for being a part of our team and for reading our emails and joining in with us. This is, we made a big difference in like the fight against diabetes. Like Dr. Saunders, we started off talking about how this really is an epidemic that's worse than COVID, because more people are dying from metabolic issues than anything else. And as you've seen, like if you have diabetes or high blood pressure or heart issues, your risk of death and major illness with COVID is just magnified tremendously. So we want to get that taken care of so you guys can live your healthiest life and the life that God intended for you on this good green earth that we live in. So that's all I've got to say. I'll stop preaching here, but thanks, Leslie. Good stuff. Appreciate your help. And we will see you guys again next week, Thursday at 11 a.m. Central. See you later. God bless.